These are all major companies, and they're basically conglomerates that are running everything that you're seeing down to your movies and everything like that. There's only a few players that are doing it. On one hand, you can count them, and they're all influencing everything that you're watching. So whoever's at that top, that top level, it's the same 4 or 5 people who have that same vision, and they're all doing it and stretching it out. But anyways, to go back to this, now it's going into music, and the next part of this is the Universal Music Group is pretty much put up a for sale sign. And if you know anything about music, then you know that the UMG world or umbrella is very massive.
Oh yeah.
The Universal is the majority of music, and Universal Sony is all in one thing. So that's Sony, that's Universal, which is also owned by NBC.
Yeah, but Universal Records is separate from NBC.
Yeah, the Universal.
They don't own NBC. So when Comcast bought Universal Studios,
that was separate.
Yeah, GM sold out or whatever. They sold Universal Music Group to this French company named Vivendi, who already owned like 30% of it. They bought the rest of it out at around that same time. But they own Universal Music Group. It runs Interscope Records, which is Aftermath Records, Shady Records, Top Dog Entertainment.
And Geffen, yep.
Geffen Records. Geffen Records has will.i.am Music Group under it. They own the Capitol Music, so Capitol Records, Blue Note Records, Caroline Distribution, G Unit Records, Virgin Records. They own Republic Records. That's Cash Money, Young Money.
Yep. Capitol Music Group. Island Records, which is Island. That's where kind of like Rihanna got her start, which is essentially just a branch of Def Jam. So they own Def Jam as well. They have their own of the Universal Music Group Nashville, which holds almost all the big country artists.
Yep.
The Latin Entertainment, which Latin right now is blowing up. It was the number one
worldwide global music.
Global music, downloaded, consumed, whatever you want to call it. It was number one last year, so it overtook everything. That is huge, obviously, because that's going to be the next wave of music. They own the UK, Universal Music UK, Hong Kong, France, Japan, Sweden. I mean, shit, they own pretty much all of the big dogs, really, that you can think of.
Yes, they also own EMI, all the EMI writing publishing masters,
which is huge. as an artist, if you don't know the difference between ASCAP or EMI or any of those and BMI, you are asleep and you're probably not getting paid. So
yeah, they own all of that. Vivendi, in July of 2018, they announced that they're going to sell half of Universal Music Group, and it's believed if the offer is high enough that they'll just sell the whole thing. So there's a lot of big players coming into play. One big question is that Google may be trying to buy it. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Sony Records bought out Michael Jackson's half of Sony ATV Music, which was over 2 million copyrights in that one. And Google did make a couple of bids to try to buy that catalog from the Jackson estate.
Right.
And so it's believed that a couple of companies are trying to make a play for the 50% of UMG, Universal Music Group. It's believed that Google's being mentioned in there. Alibaba, which is a big Chinese company, along with TenCent, which is a big Chinese media company. They make a lot of apps. I believe they bought that Musical.ly app a couple of years ago, which is now TikTok. And that's one of the biggest social media apps in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Especially amongst kids and teens, for sure.
Yeah, so that's TenCent. Liberty Media is also making a play for UMG. Liberty Media, they own Sirius XM Radio as well as Pandora.
Mm-mm. Oh, yeah, that's big.
And then Apple and Verizon.
Ooh, Verizon trying to get in the game.
So it would be a smart move for a company like Google or Apple. As we had discussed on the previous clip there, Comcast and AT&T, they're both tech companies that provide services, and them owning content on the back end of that makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense for Apple and Verizon and Google as well. especially Apple getting into the subscription game. They're focused more on services. Apple Music, obviously, it would be, probably the biggest expense for Apple Music is licensing music, right?
Right. So cut out the middleman, be able to own all of that shit. Woof. Boy.
Yeah. And another reason it could be big for Google is the largest streaming service on the planet.
Right.
YouTube.
Just in general.
YouTube.
Right.
Largest streaming service on the planet. Largest music streaming service on the planet too. Odds are you can find any song you want on YouTube right now.
Yep.
For free.
Imagine if they don't have to pay any licensing or anything like that to allow them to be uploaded or any of those types of things, or be fined by these companies. They get 100% of all of those royalties that come out of that, and they can probably restructure a deal that that's pretty shitty for artists as well if they wanted to, and really even take more money. And we're talking so much music. When Michael Jackson only owned about half of the UMG world at that time, we're talking over 2 million copyrights. Imagine where they're at on the other half of that. I would at least say we're sitting on 5 to 10 million copyrights, because there's Motown in there also that I'm reading. Motown gospel, Motown records, all of that is still encompassed by the UMG umbrella. So you're buying everything from like the 50s, 60s, stuff like that, all the way up until now.
Yeah.
And just monopolizing all of that. That is so much profit to be made. So I'm thinking,
That's like 80% of Black music created.
Exactly. 80% of Black music. You're not even
like those labels that we've named are, and because we're talking top, these are top of the top labels. Like we're, Aftermath Records, Cash Money, Young Money Records. That's probably like 60% of hip hop sales.
Right. And then the other one is Def Jam. Obviously Def Jam for the longest had been the top for a hip hop artist. You could if you were signed to Def Jam, then you were the top pinnacle of the industry. That's good music. Good music is still under Def Jam. So that's Kanye and his record label. That's all under there as well. So there's so much that's under that. Republic Records is huge too, which we just talked about for Cash Money and stuff like that, Rich Gang. But they have so many more that are under that, that do serve for a lot of international artists and such like that. So, man, I want to know how much that would be. What is the right number? Because we're talking about not only current value, but then we're talking about future value as well.
Right. So I'm seeing that it's suspected that Vivendi is seeking about $20 billion for 50% of UMG. So we can guess that they're probably looking for about $40 billion for the whole thing.
I don't think that's that bad, to be honest. I know. Well, we're sitting here talking like we got $1 billion in the bank right now.
Yeah, I'm about to ask you if you could borrow me $40, dog. We're talking about 40 billion.
That's real talk. But I mean, if you look at how much some of these other companies and things are being acquired for, to me, that's not a lot of money when you're talking about future money to be made as well as current value. If we're talking $40 billion to get pretty much 80% of the world's music, I think there's a lot of money to be made, man, because there's going to be a lot of artists that are yet to come that are still making money and that could blow up. The J. Cole's, I see Dreamville is actually under the umbrella for Interscope. So okay, Interscope also has Dreamville in there, which obviously we all love some J. Cole. J. Cole is dope.
Yep.
They own that part too, so there's going to be so many of the future, future killers that are pretty much going to be all encompassed in this deal as far as their music rights and such. $40 billion to me sounds like a drop of a hat in the sense when we just talked about $71 billion to acquire Fox Studios for Disney.
Yeah.
there's a lot of money to be made on that end, and there's a lot of money to be made on the music end, because they've been making billions of dollars off of black people for the longest anyway.
Let me tell you the other end of that, man. That $40 billion, not a penny of it going to a black person that made any of that
No.
music that we all love and listen to. That's the bullshit part of it.
Exactly.
Of that 40 billion, not a penny of it gonna go to the artist.
Right. And what's going to happen is that probably, again, like I said, whoever gets it, whoever owns it or ends up getting a piece of it, will try to restructure those streaming rights to where it's going to be less money to be made, unless it's Apple. Shout out to Apple, because again, we talked about it about 2 episodes or 3 episodes ago, where we were talking about the streaming artists wanted to, or the streaming companies, they wanted to change how they're getting paid out, and it was going to increase by 40% as far as the costs and what they're paying out. And everybody besides Apple actually is trying to like sue back. So that would be a win for the artists in a sense if that does happen, that Apple ends up getting it, because they are at least trying to pay the artists versus these other companies that are getting involved and don't give a damn about the artist himself putting out the money. But it's just it's just looking at this layer of, again, these top conglomerates literally owning everything from your music to what you watch on TV to what you stream on Netflix, all of the above, to your damn service provider that provides those services to you. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are all being owned by the same companies. Four companies, and you just said Verizon trying to get in this music piece. I mean, what's going to happen if Verizon has the money to do it? They're going to monopolize the shit out of it and say, well, if you want to listen to these artists, then you're going to have to get our phones or our service. I can totally see that happening. All the above when it comes to that. So, man, we're just getting to a point where it's kind of like even what we look at when in the banking world of the Rothschilds and looking at that type of spectrum. That's kind of where we're getting to right now when it comes to the other side of just media in general.
That's why these artists can't do anything to get better deals, because they've got 90% of the time you got to go through one of these companies because they're putting out 90% of the content and media that's being consumed.
Right. And what needs to happen, I mean, for real, the artists, if y'all ever listen, like the Jay-Z's and shit of the world, if y'all ever take a listen to this, first of all, you should be signing us too. But second,
yes, we are not controlled by any of these 4 or 5 media corporations.
We sure aren't. So we can
say real truth.
So we can say what the fuck we want. But real talk, I think, like, as far as for the artists or the artist side, I think they all need to come together and put all of their money together and try to buy a piece of this and split it up the way that it needs to be for the artists, because these are the guys who are getting screwed the most, is those artists who are actually putting those things out. So if one of y'all end up hearing like the Jay-Z,
Kanye, buy it.
Kanye's, yeah, whoever, all y'all put y'all money together, stop all the bullshit, put all y'all money together and buy a piece of that. Because that's exactly what Michael Jackson did. He got smart. And he actually owned some of that music for a point in time, and he made money off of it. That's what needs to happen if we want to keep money in the black community as well. With that, go ahead and put y'all money together and buy at least a piece of this before it's all gone. Because at the end of the day, then even if you have a piece, if somebody doesn't have it all, then they're going to have to make an offer for your piece. And at least if you're going to get that, then you can double, triple up, whatever you need to. That's basically a flip. So, man, if I had the money, I would surely buy some rights or something like that to get a piece of this, just so, again, it's kind of like a flip. You can kind of flip that, because definitely somebody's going to want to buy it and flip that around.
King James should get in there and buy it.
Yeah, for real. LeBron, he's got the money. I mean, they got it could be anybody as long as it's coming from the black community.
Anyone but Mayweather or Daniel Caesar.
Oh, Daniel Caesar.
Daniel Caesar ain't got the money to put in on this yet.
Not yet, nah. And he kind of shot himself in the foot. We'll talk about that one later. But definitely, again, our listeners, we always try to educate. Think about all that we just talked about. It's a lot of information to digest, but we're at least providing you the correct information that's out there for you to look and read into it on yourselves. But man, we're getting to that point of monopolization at the top, from everything from what you view on TV to what you listen to. It's all it's going to be owned by the same groups of people. And next thing you know, there could be agendas that are just coming from those groups of people, and there ain't shit you can do about it.
And that's what's going on in this world right now. It's agendas being pushed on everybody. Obviously, there's 3 media companies, so there's 3 different opinions you're allowed to have. And
right.
if you ain't got mine, then fuck you.
Out of the 7 billion people on this earth, there's only 3 that matter as far as opinions in that sense, because you're absolutely right. Those are the only companies that are pushing shit down. And if you're not on that top level, or if you're not that CEO or whoever at the top, then you're pretty much not being heard. So,
and I'll tell you what, all those people at the top, they don't give a goddamn shit about any of us.
No, it's always about the dollar, man.
Yep.
It's just funding more world things and world domination at some point, because then you got whoever's going to be at the top dog there. They talk to the top banking people, the Rothschilds of the world, and the Carnegie families and the things like that. The people who got that real money, they really are the ones who control everything anyway. But I digress. But they're gonna be right up there with them, and they don't give 2 shits about what's happening. They're going to control what kind of outcomes happen in this world, and we just live in it. So just be cognizant of all these things, and make sure you're paying attention, man, because it's definitely happening, and it's happening right under your nose with all the other shit that's going on in the world. There's always some moves happening that you don't know about until it's brought to light. So that's what we like to do here on the Antidote. Again, we always try to give y'all the red or the blue pill. You take whichever one. We're not going to force feed you, but we're going to give you the information to stay loaded.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to, invest a little $20 billion behind us, we can buy half of Universal Music Group and give this shit back to the people.
Amen.
Amen. But if not, we'll be back talking some more shit.
Exactly. We'll be right back here. No matter what, the next day is finna happen the same way as it did yesterday, and we're gonna be right back on here talking that shit. So I know Killer Mike. I hope Killer Mike listens at one point, because I know he'd be down for that. Yeah. Putting some money towards buying some shit. He already knows he's a real entrepreneur out here. So hey, Killer Mike, if you ever listening, holla at us, bruh.
Yeah, bro. I'm an ally, bro.
Yeah, real talk.
Holla at your ally.